Thanks for listening to Get in the Hole, your number one stop for all things in the world of golf. Watch and subscribe anywhere you get your favorite shows on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, Google, and more. Just search Get in the Hole. Get in the Hole is the official golf pod of the Underground Sports Philadelphia family of podcasts. Now let's get right into the action. Here's your hosts, Steve McAvoy and Ben Pirro.
Philadelphia, baby, you're going to love it. Best sports fans in the world. Actually, the worst, but that's what makes them the best.
And ladies and gentlemen, to the Get in the Hole podcast, Steve McAvoy, Jake Dippold, new co-host alert coming on in to the show. We're sponsored today and every day by PHI Apparel Company. PHI Apparel Co. provides the unique designs of high-quality clothing for the great fans of Philadelphia. With their original designs for all, there's no doubt you will stand out in the crowd. Go to use code Underground for 10% off your next order at PHI Apparel Co. PHIapparel.co. Again, PHIapparel.co. Once again, Steve, Jake, we call him Dip now, Jake Dippold. In literally the first 5 minutes of the show, we finally have figured out a nickname for you. Jake, welcome into the show. Welcome in as the newest addition to my, I guess, like right-hand man at this point, or like left-hand man, wherever you want. Left-hand man, because you kind of show up on the left side of my screen. How are you? Welcome in.
What's going on, Steve? Good to be here. Glad to be here. Super pumped to be with Underground Philly and just, ready to talk golf, ready to talk with you. Get it going.
It's great having somebody on now who follows the game of golf as much as you do, because in the years past, my friend John and I founded the show. He wound up getting a PGA job doing ground, not like groundskeeping, but like working in the clubhouse at Hampton Golf Club all the way in the Hamptons, like right by like Shinnecock and National and all those courses. So he wound up getting swamped. We had a pro golfer on, Ben Pirro, one of our friends, who came on and subbed in for him, wanted to get into the podcasting realm. Well, of course, he's now a pro golfer and doesn't really have time for me. So it was nice when KB was on. It was good to have another hand, but it's a little different when you have someone who actually knows the game of golf and follows it as much as you do. You, to give everyone a kind of an idea of who you are before we start in, former college athlete, played baseball, and of course made the transition to golf, because what else is freaking new? From every washed-up baseball player, hockey player on the planet, we all wind up somewhere in the game of golf, whether or not you're 13 or 30. In my case, I was 13. But you also now run your own TikTok and social media account, PitchNChips. Tell us a little bit about how it started and how you started to get into the social media game.
For sure, yeah. So I kind of always grew up making videos. I always tried to make video and write paper in school. I was that kid that was like, can I please just make like a video about what we're doing instead of writing a paper? So I was kind of always inclined to do that. Majored in film and digital media in undergrad. So I got a little bit of a background there. And then after baseball ended and kind of within my senior year, TikTok kind of blew up, and I was like, I can do that. Doesn't look like it's too crazy hard, and it is crazy hard. TikTok is wild, and it's so hard to understand it in the algorithm. Well, that's a whole nother story for a whole nother day. But so I danced around with a couple different ideas. I went into like this golfing lawyer idea thing, because I am in law school now, but that didn't really hit. And then PitchNChips came about, and it was just all about like being that former college athlete, former high school athlete, former player that now plays golf. And golf is the hardest game literally in the entire world. Like, you're like, yeah, I'm done. I'm finally done getting pissed off at sports. I'm done being mad about sports. And then you start playing golf, and literally every single hole I'm getting pissed. Like, I can hit the ball hard and far, but aside from that, I'm not really doing much on the golf course. So I try to kind of frame those ideas in my blog, frame those ideas in my TikToks, and just kind of bring that community together,
Yeah, no, so saw a recent video, which has basically been the story of my life this winter. I haven't played golf I haven't had a ball prior to last week in probably 2 months. I moved into an apartment in August, started a new job started a job in May, which kind of almost derailed my golf season to a degree, because I was so caught up in the first few months of like orientation and everything. So I didn't really golf very much in the summer. I got probably in 12, 13 rounds when usually I'm playing like 30. And then I wind up hitting the fall. The range that was nearest to me that I used to always go to was now like an hour away. So I'm trying to find new ranges. I'm working in Manhattan, so it's like an hour. It's an hour ride home. I'm getting home at 6 o'clock every night. I got to see my girlfriend. I got to make dinner. I got to do all these things, and then of course, Peaky Blinders has been the one thing on my mind for the last 2 months. So I'm watching that every freaking day, and I just never got back into like golfing. I would practice putting in here every now and then, ever so often, and then just wasn't able to actually swing. Finally, got to the range, which is now my permanent place of worship as of 2 weeks ago, and everything was a snap hook. And I'm standing there and I'm like, what the fuck am I doing wrong? And golf is so immensely frustrating. And obviously everyone who listens to the show probably knows that, being that you probably do golf. But the slightest thing to get me back to hitting it straight was a centimeter to like a quarter of an inch of my front foot just pivoted back a little bit in my stance. And next thing you know, more of that into out motion. And all of a sudden you're hitting freaking nukes. And so finally I'm figuring it out. The driver still can't figure its way out whatsoever. As of right now, I'm blaming the equipment, even though I really shouldn't be. It's the Indian, not the arrow. But that's a different topic for a different day. So tell me, the one thing that I noticed that I found interesting about your show, your account, is you're a fungo golfer.
Oh yeah.
What the hell does that mean?
And I claim myself as the world's best fungo golfer, Steve, not just a fungo golfer. So basically, like in college, pitchers are sitting around all the time. Pitchers, they warm up, they sit there, and they do nothing. So I think the Vandy boys were the ones that kind of started it. But what you do is you just get a fungo bat, like the coaches hit ground balls with. You pick out holes throughout the stadium, and you just say, top of the bleachers, that's a par 3. And you go and attack it, and you keep your score. You play with the other pitchers, and keep your eyes out on my TikTok. I'm actually about to start hitting fungo golf real hard, and I want to do it in like the middle of the downtown area. Like I got a fungo bat and like this soft kind of rubbery ball. I got to check with law enforcement to see how this will go over. But like I want to just be like, yo, like top of the bank, that's our hole, par 3, and like just crush balls down the street and make golf into the world, like bring golf into the world, like, so taking that baseball aspect and that golf aspect and making golf accessible to literally anyone at any time. And that's kind of my idea. So be on the lookout for that. And I am the world's best until someone tells me I'm not. I've called out Bubby Golf a couple times now because he's that baseball golf guy on YouTube, but he doesn't know about me. So we'll see if he ever plays me in a match.
Now, you're lucky you're a lawyer because you mentioned law enforcement. I think it makes sense that either your law career can very easily go sideways if you manage to you're aiming for like the top of a building, and all of a sudden you just lace one straight to like a woman's dome.
Yeah, we're definitely going to have to close off streets when we do this. But I think even if we're at a baseball stadium, we're at a park, it's just something that I think would be awesome to make golf like into the real world.
Do you think you have the ability, like how like soccer players do like the bar down challenge, or like they'll do like even like quarterbacks? I think it was like Caleb Williams at USC did a video recently where he was like throwing darts about like 80 yards or so into like trash cans. Do you think confidently you can hit a line drive into like a trash can from like, I don't know, 250 feet away?
250 feet is wild.
I mean, baseball though, now granted you were a pitcher, so it's a little different story, but like if the average college baseball player can hit a generic baseball, granted with a metal bat, about 380 feet, I can't see why you can't hit a rubber ball with a fungo bat.
Honestly, I'm consistently pretty confident that I could do that. Like no doubt, at least in 2 swings, I'm getting it there. And I think I'm kind of a wizard with the fungo a little bit, but I don't want to come off too confident, too hot early. It's my first episode. I'm already dropping some really big claims early, but I think I'm the world's best fungo golfer, and someone's gonna have to take it.
It's okay. I believe the first episode we ever did, my friend John told me that he could average 10 points per game in the NBA. And I turn to him and I go, what's your problem? And he goes, well, hypothetically, I'm like, all right, this is going nowhere. And he goes, I have the coach's wives' nudes. and I blackmail him to facilitate the game plan through me. If I play 35 minutes,
just give him the ball.
I can at least draw 3 fouls and hit the free throws. I go, you are thinking way too far into this.
Yeah, that's wild.
Under the complete assumption that, like, I can't even tell you what basketball coach you could possibly pawn off. Like Greg Popovich's wife. Like, what? Yeah, no, would not fly in the slightest. Anyways, wow. Tangent here. Jake, welcome in. So Jake will be joining us for the foreseeable future, hopefully for a long, long, long time, to break down everything in the world of college golf. And welcome in. Not college golf. Jesus Christ. All things golf in
we can
general.
mix in a little college golf.
College golf, pro golf, LPGA golf. Obviously, well, the one thing that I love, though, about having a lawyer on the show is we're going to talk a lot about the psychoticness of live golf, and we're going to get to that on the other side. However, we start our day with what else? The first week of golf on the PGA Tour, the Century Tournament of Champions, which, by the way, Max Homa said needs a name change. I kind of agree because it might be a mouthful, and it really isn't a tournament of champions anymore if players who don't win are a part of it. But regardless, a recap of the week. Jon Rahm, 10 under par, 64 on the day on a par 73, comes back from 7 strokes down. Colin Morikawa bogeys 14, 15, 16, and chokes the Century to Jon Rahm. What do we think of this week? And where does Jon Rahm now stand after only a week of golf? His first win in the books. I had a stat here. His last 5 full field events, I'm pretty sure he's won 3 of them, and he's been no worse than top 5. In his last, all right, here we go. Dating back to the beginning of the playoffs last year, so last August, Jon Rahm has no finishes worse than top 16. He has 8 top 10s, 7 of which were top 5, and he has 3 wins. He won the BMW PGA. He won the Spanish Open for the 3rd time, breaking Seve Ballesteros' record, and now has this win in what's usually a top 10 field in terms of strength every single year, being that it's 25 of the best golfers in the world for the most part. So what do we make of Jon Rahm's performance, and should we be concerned at all after 1 week of Colin Morikawa's bad putter?
Yeah, man, he was just consistent all weekend. Jon Rahm came out, scored well, was just an awesome prop bet for birdies over. I'll tell you that. And he was just consistent all weekend, man. And then he came out on Sunday, bogeyed 1, and then just turned it around after that and was birdie opportunity after birdie opportunity, eagle opportunity. And he was just cashing in at a time when he put some pressure on Colin Morikawa and he folded. And I love Morikawa. I think he played great this weekend, obviously. But when the pressure comes on and you fold and Jon Rahm doesn't fold going into Sunday with really needing a miracle, honestly. I mean, I think we can say that he needed a miracle to even have a chance to win. Comes out, bogeys 1, and then he really needs a big miracle. And he gets that miracle. That's just staying consistent and doing the small things right all day.
I've been saying this for months and months and months that Jon Rahm doesn't have the clutch gene. And I got a lot of backlash for this, but it's kind of true. Since dating back to the U.S. Open 2 years ago, has only had 1 pro win. Like DP World Tour, PGA Tour, whatever you want to call it, that's all it's been. It's been 1 win. Granted, top 10 machine, and he's been able to get there, but simply has not shown me enough. And yet, over the last month and a half, clearly he listens to the podcast because he knows, oh, yes, Steve's saying this, so I got to turn it around. All of a sudden, just comes out and just murders the golf ball. I was looking at his stats earlier today. He was first off the tee. He's first around the green. He was 3rd putting, only behind Colin Morikawa and Seamus Power. He was on absolute fire the entire week. Although the fascinating part, though, was he wasn't hitting fairways, which is granted, not necessarily a terrible thing, because Capitol it's a resort course. It isn't made to be a challenging issue. A lot of guys go there. It's more so for the vacation and the congratulations. You get to start 1 week earlier than everyone else. But it's still a fascinating development for someone like Jon Rahm that in a month's time, 2 months' time, we've seen this almost meteor turnaround from the guy who was number 1 in the world and was getting odds just about every single week. That was like Tiger Woods-esque plus 400, plus 500, to then losing to Patrick Cantlay in the tour final. Kind of didn't fall off the earth, but had a child, almost missed the Masters, played 2 months of golf where he wasn't really able to find his swing off the tee. All of a sudden wins the U.S. Open, and then kind of just not sputtered, but kind of just kept like a rock and just stayed still and was just top 10, top 10, top 10. And all of a sudden, here we are. The bigger concern, though, this week, I don't think falls on Jon Rahm's amazing performance. However, it falls on the fact that Collin Morikawa, for the first time in my lifetime watching him in the 3 or 4 years he's been about, was last year, the issue was always the putter. He couldn't figure it out. He lost Riviera because of the putter. He couldn't figure out anything like on the greens, even around the greens. He would struggle. And for the first 3 days, he's gaining 6 strokes putting. And then the final day, 5 bogeys. And just what happened? Like a final day of just absolute mishaps. And it wasn't even like it was unlucky putts. Like he was just misreading the green the entire back 9. It was like a foreign concept to him, which is funny because holes 14 through 16, he had racked up the most birdies the entire week, almost everybody, on an aggregate for 3 days, and all of a sudden just lost 3 strokes there. So we'll see what Collin Morikawa is capable of, but I'm a little concerned after that one go at it that we might still need a little bit more before I can start picking Collin every single week, although I must say the ball striking was a show. He was phenomenal. Yeah,
it was unreal. And even going deeper into that putting, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think he got a new putting coach this offseason. And I mean, it showed in those first 3 rounds. And I mean, I think he just crumbled on Sunday, man. Like he saw Rahm coming up quick and he started getting nervous, and those greens are wild there. I saw a video of Max Homa hitting a putt, and it was just like, woo, 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 woo. And like, I mean, sometimes you just can't see it late. And when you're second guessing it, you got no shot. So I think he started second guessing some putts, probably wasn't trusting his read. And I mean, being the best putter in the world, if you don't trust your read, you're not going to do anything. So I think he just lost it there.
No, it's kind of like the old saying. It's like you either fall in love with the line or the pace, but you like just can't figure out the other one. And I mean, it happens to us all the time as generic casual golfers. But even for the pros, like putting on some of these greens, I've played on some professional golf courses in the past. I played at my friend John's Southampton. I may or may not have snuck on and played a couple of holes at Shinnecock once. Like these greens are ludicrously tough. I played Bethpage Black. It's shocking how some of these players are able to even get it so close where, and I pride myself on being pretty good at reading greens. Typically I don't have a problem with it. And yet things just kind of just crumbled for Collin Morikawa. But however, there were a lot of guys who actually did show out and a lot of surprises and a lot of upsets that we had on top of Collin's crumble. I want to kind of get your thoughts here on the overall opening week. Who were some surprises? Who were some letdowns? Were there anything that you found interesting, suspicious, or fascinating from this week that we could now carry out as a precursor to the rest of the year?
Yeah, to begin, I'll double hit on Collin Morikawa. I think I was pretty surprised that he came out as hot as he did. You know, we had some struggles late last year. He wasn't the Collin Morikawa that we knew he could be. And then he just came out on fire those first 3 days. As we said, he did fall apart there late, but I think there's a lot of good to see in Morikawa. And I think he's a pretty good pick going forward if he doesn't just crumble on Sundays. We're going to have to see him kind of work through something maybe mentally. But I think Morikawa really surprised me. And then Zalatoris really surprised me a little bit too. I wasn't really sure what he's going to do with that back, if he was going to be able to swing, if he's going to be the Zalatoris we know. And I think he had a T10 this weekend, and just to see that was awesome, man. Just to see him coming back and being ready to go and swinging hard like we've seen Will do, I thought was a pretty big surprise, but an awesome surprise to see.
So I laid down a 6-leg parlay on Sunday that I thought I was going to nail, and this is kind of the backbone of my surprise here. Sungjae M, who started out top 5, managed to fall all the way back down to 13th, finished at 19 under, finished at 3 under for the day. I believe he was at like 6 under at his apex for the day. Jordan Spieth, somebody who has a incredible history here and was for a quick moment top 3 on the leaderboard, also fell down to 13th. He finished 19 under for the week. Yep. Justin Thomas, again, someone who I picked to win as one of my 4 picks last week. If you remember, I took Jon Rahm, took Justin Thomas, took Xander Schauffele, who also just withdrew for. We're gonna actually we have to talk that in a hot second. But Schauffele withdrew. I thought JT was going to be a shoo-in, someone who needs to prove himself, hasn't had a win on tour since winning the PGA. came out and kind of just sputtered the first couple of days. And then honestly, my biggest surprise was two guys who I was really high on to begin the year and I thought would make a splash this week and would carry over to a few weeks following was Sam Burns and Sahith Theegala. Theegala was in a interesting predicament because he falls under the new PGA Tour rules where just because you don't have a win does not exclude you from the Tournament Champions. If you made the Tour final, the Tour Championship, you were in this week. So he made it. As somebody who, like Tom Kim, had one of the shortest rookie years ever, technically, if you want to actually consider like time allotted as a measurement for your rookie year, he was only a rookie for about 3 months, considering he was a exemption for about half the year, and then got his card after his first win. I think it's only a matter of time that he shows out, but finishing 33rd out of 38 people in the field was kind of a letdown for me. Same with Sam Burns, someone who usually puts really well on these greens, and he's known as Bermuda Burns for a reason. And the Bermuda grass just simply didn't cooperate with him. Speaking of which, also, we need to acknowledge how good Tom Kim is and how much I may have to just. I was talking to a friend of mine who works at the Golf Channel. At what point do I stop picking Tom Kim to just win every event? Because I feel like it's going to be a donation to every sportsbook on the planet, but at some point, it's like it's going to hit at some point.
Yeah, it's going to pay off.
So, where do we see Tom Kim here in this equation, being that he'll probably always hit for a top 20 at this point? The meteoric rise, probably next to what Tiger Woods was when he was a kid. Not to the level, of course, because Kim's like 20, 21.
20, I think he's 20.
And by 20 years old, I'm pretty sure Tiger had 3 majors already. So, but regardless, like a meteoric rise. Like, where do we see Tom Kim? Like, when's that first one going to come?
Yeah, he's just, he just doesn't find a golf course that he doesn't like. Yeah. He's just so positive. Just seeing this guy go out there every single week, ever since the President's Cup, and he's just a positive guy. You look out there, he's smiling, he's hitting the ball, he's striking the ball well, he's smiling, he's rolling putts, he's smiling. And it's just, that's contagious into your golf swing. Like that happiness and that positivity is going to show up in his swing. And that's why he's just so consistent, Exactly. And I think that's such a good pick. I might be doing that too. I'm just going to start putting money down on Tom Kim to win every single week and let that happen. And eventually it'll pay it off. But for a little bit, it's going to be a donation until they got to pay it all back.
He's going to be B plus 1,000 to win every event anyways. So you might as well put the $2 down and win your 50 and kind of just move on and like see where things go. But Tom Kim's also in the elite group of golfers that, well, not necessarily the elite group, but the grouping of golfers over the last 2 weeks that have a lot of gear changes to their repertoire. This week, obviously, Tom Kim not changing clubs per se. I believe I want to say he's a club free agent. However, he did sign an apparel deal last week with Nike. We talked about it on the show with KB last week. I was like, yo, at some point, this guy's got to get signed. Mm-hmm. I don't know where it's going to be to. It's probably going to be to a Nike if he gets a golf club deal, wherever it's going to be. He strikes me as a Titleist guy. I feel like that would definitely be his brand. That or like Ping.
Yeah.
Ping fits.
He's not like a Callaway guy. He's not a TaylorMade guy. Tom Kim is Nike Tom and either Titleist or Callaway Tom, no doubt.
I'm actually curious now what he swings. What does he play with? Or he's the kind of guy who probably plays like Hanma.
Yeah, like something crazy.
Some crazy ass club. Let me see here. According to here, all right. Actually, you know what? He's a pretty diverse bag. So he uses this is as of the Wyndham. Obviously, this was 6 months ago, so it's been a bit. But he uses a Titleist TSR3. His fairway woods are all Callaway Rogues. He uses a Callaway Apex Hybrid. T200 irons. All right, so Titleist Callaway mix, and then he has the Vokey wedges, and then he uses then a Scotty. So relatively diverse. Wouldn't think of him though as a Callaway guy, but
yeah, me neither. That's surprising.
Certainly a Titleist guy at some point in his career, and I feel like it'll now that Patrick Cantlay's gone, you might see him jump into the fold. We'll see how that one goes. But plenty of gear changes across the PGA Tour. We talked about this off the show. Gary Woodland changed over from Wilson over to Cobra. I believe Bryson DeChambeau is still a member of Cobra, but we don't really know much about those LIV guys quite yet. Kevin Kisner and Trey Mullinax switched over to Wilson as Woodland jumped off the train. And then, of course, Patrick Cantlay has officially hit the free agency market, dropping Titleist, probably because they saw that cookout outfit and they might have been like, we're a little scared. Then again, I'm surprised Hugo Boss hasn't dropped him yet. But what do we make of these gear changes? What do you think are any other moves we might see? I believe there was a little more movement recently that I totally missed, but somebody else signed somewhere else recently. But what do you make of the gear changes, and do we think it's going to really do anything for these guys' games?
Yeah, I mean, these gear changes I think are going to ramp up to another whole level. I don't see, especially with these purses continuing to go up, I don't see anyone doing club deals at all. When there's a putt or a chip to separate you from winning $2.8 million or $2 million, you're not going to risk an $100,000 club deal to be missing that putt because you don't, or that be missing that chip because you don't have the gear you want. I don't think apparel really makes a difference for these guys. For the right price, they'll wear anything. Patrick Cantlay wears those accounting firms on his head all the time. Like they'll literally wear anything. And then as far as Kisner leaving Callaway, I thought that was pretty surprising. That one shocked me a little bit. I thought he was kind of their guy. But I mean, you just never know, man. There's a whole new world of sponsorships. And I just don't think these companies are going to be spending the money on these guys when it's just not a guaranteed showing. You got to really bet on your guy making it to Saturday or Sunday and getting a lot of TV time, to where if they don't, you're just not getting the return on investment that you're looking for. Yeah. So I think it's going to definitely switch up a little bit. And then, I mean, create a player Cantlay this weekend, I thought was awesome. He was just wearing that blacked out shirt with no logos anywhere. And he's just ready to get dropped some bands to where whatever accounting firm or orthodontist office offers him some money next week.
Probably the best brand deal, I guess you could say, in golf, in my opinion, is still Cameron Young sporting the MLB logo. Did you know that for a while, this changed at some point, but if you wore the MLB logo, you would get free tickets to any stadium in the country?
No way.
Any MILB, any MLB, anything you wanted to go to, you would get tickets for it.
That's crazy.
It's kind of lit for someone like Cameron Young. I feel like he's definitely a baseball kind of guy. He's definitely backwoods country from upstate New York. I actually went to one, not really a rival, but one of the Catholic schools in the city with the Fordham Prep. Okay. My high school was a rival of theirs, at least like in some sports. I'm not really sure golf, but he was a stud back in the day. But between the MLB logo and I got to think of like the other classic brand deals that like are really funny. I love how everyone's like sponsored by like a jet company. Mm-hmm. Honestly, the golden one may actually be the funniest one for Patrick Cantlay, because he even looks like an accountant.
Yeah, like he's so unassuming too when you look at him, and then he goes out there and just smashes the golf ball. But yeah, he'll wear anything for the right price.
I heard a great story once from my uncle's. He's technically my uncle, but he isn't my uncle by blood. It's through marriage. But my uncle Vince used to play baseball for the Houston Astros. And I used to go to this campground in Connecticut, and every single day at 2:00 they would have adult softball. And so you show up, you have captains, you pick teams, and you just play 7 innings. And my Uncle Vince showed up in Sperry's, a Vineyard Vines button down, and some khakis. And totally unassuming. No one was like, oh yeah. He was the last person picked. He showed up with this old raggedy glove, which he had actually since he was an Astro, like 10, 15 years prior. He's the last guy batting. And when you go to these softball games, it's pick order that you bat, or positional order. So he was just sitting out in left field where he played pro ball for like 3 or 4 years. It wasn't like huge. And he comes up to bat. And the left field wall, there really isn't a wall. It's kind of just like a big like square grass patch. But there's like a fence to divide the field technically from the other like campsites, so that the ball doesn't hit it, which is about like 300 feet, I'd say. Hits a nuke about 450 feet, way into the trees, could not find it, somewhere gone. Everyone's like mouth on the floor. That's Patrick Cantlay if he was like a typical accountant, shows up to the like company golf outing and just starts mashing 360 down the fairway. It makes absolute sense. We're going to talk more about the gear changes and why we believe that the golf club deal might be turning a little obsolete, at least for now. On the other side here, you're listening to the Get in the Hole podcast. Steve and Jake right here. Do not go anywhere.
Welcome back to the Get in the Hole podcast. This episode is brought to you by Ty's Baseball Tees. Ty's Baseball Tees is the online t-shirt shop that is all baseball. With over 30 original designs from straight out of the bullpen to strikeouts are fascist. Ty's Baseball Tees is the place for top quality baseball merch for the baseball enthusiast. Get your tee now at TysBaseballTees.com and get 10% off your purchase with discount code PITCH10, that's PITCH 10. And don't forget to follow them on Instagram at Ty's Baseball Tees. Jake and Steve here. Let's talk more about club sponsorships, especially full bag deals, and why they're becoming obsolete. What do you think, Steve? Do you think we've seen the end of full bag club deals as we know it?
You know, I think you brought up a good point on the other side. I think it isn't necessarily a matter of the club deals getting obsolete. I think the more interesting thing is, and this is two-pronged. One, the apparel deal is becoming more important, I would actually say. And then two, it's the people that are now getting the club deals that I think matter even more. So part one here on the apparel side, take someone like Kevin Kisner, right, who wore Callaway. Then you take someone like Gary Woodland, who wore Wilson, very clearly the red hat with a big giant like baseball like script lettering that you always saw. It struck me more when you see a player wearing a logo rather than playing a logo. That kind of makes sense. Mm-hmm. Like I can't tell you when someone's putting, oh, he's playing with a Scotty or he's playing with a triple track or a Spider. Like the putters are probably actually the worst example that I can give you because those are clearly the easiest ones to spot, but you're swinging a black carbon fiber driver. I can't tell you if it's Cobra, if it's TaylorMade, or if it's Titleist. I really don't know, nor do I really care. If the ball goes 80,000 feet, that's great. That's all I really want to see. So I think like in that regard, I think the apparel deal is actually even more important here. And Patrick Kelly never even wore Titleist to begin with. He had obviously the Marcus by Goldman hat on. He would wear his Hugo Boss apparel. So, like, for him, it doesn't really matter. But someone like Kevin Kisner, who would wear Callaway, and you'd always see him in the Callaway hat with a little rogue side, or even now the new wave of hats literally just advertise Callaway Rogue, and eventually the Paradigm now, as it comes out, is literally will just drape you across the top of the head. Those are where it really stands out because I now know, like, oh, Justin Thomas wears Titleist. I'm now more inclined to literally wear a Titleist hat because I wear Titleist. I like the golf clubs. I play the ball. I mean, the ball is also a whole different thing. I'm not good enough to even control spin to even care. But like I swing Titleist AP1s. I naturally will wear Titleist hats because it's the brand that I wear. Granted, they own FootJoy. Am I going to wear FootJoy all the time? Probably not. I wear Polo, but still, it's a different story for another day. But if a guy is going to wear Callaway polos and Callaway pants and Callaway hats, it's a whole different story. Or the guys that are wearing FootJoy shoes, you can very clearly tell who's wearing what. Or Jordan Spieth being draped in Under Armour, you know exactly what he's repping. But if Jordan Spieth goes out there and swinging Callaway clubs all of a sudden, I would not be able. I wouldn't be the wiser. I wouldn't be able to tell you unless they have literally the logo on their hat or on their shirt. I think it's those logos that matter even more. As now the other side of things, I saw Daniel Rappaport talk about it on the Foreplay Pod for Barstool. He said exactly what you said, how you have to now rely on your players to make the weekend and play well. And you take like good, right? Just sign with Callaway. I would much rather sign with Callaway to get this 16 to 30 demographic rather than having to rely on the 130th ranked golfer in the world to somehow make you the weekend when he's playing in the Memorial and he's 18 strokes back of Jordan Spieth. Like, what's the good in that for you as a brand? So it really, if you aren't one of those top 50 guys who's consistently top 20 or at least making the cut, you really don't hold value to these brands. And I would much rather get the YouTube following that like Good has, or really any content creator in the space, even someone like you and I, like being able to have a podcast where you can now sponsor a show, or a account like all these like trick shot guys are like getting into it, or like World Lawn Drive guys, or of course TikToks. Those are the guys that they're going after, and it's pretty clear with the Patrick Cantlay deal that even though Cantlay's huge, we're not really worth like. Is it worth us having a full bag thing when it's only ever going to show up on his bag because you never see his clubs?
Yeah, I think you're totally right on the apparel side, especially, and the club side. But just starting with the apparel side as well, you see that no matter what. You're going to see either on their Instagram or even especially when they're out there, like those logos are plastered. But if you're not like a crazy golf enthusiast, you're not going to be able to tell the Stealth 2 really versus the Callaway Rogue Max driver. Like there's just no way. They're swinging it too fast. They're getting a 9-second clip when they tee off. Like you're not getting your return on investment at all. But these good guys, they'll film a video and like very specifically show you in their lab hitting the ball. Like I'm swinging the Callaway XXX whatever club, and it's just so much easier, and there's so much less risk for these companies to use these creators because they know what they're getting. It's a consistent audience. They know exactly who's going to be seeing it. Pretty much all the time, they're getting well over the views that you would get potentially at a PGA Tour match, unless your guy wins. But even if your guy wins, you're still only getting those short highlights. You can't see what club they're using. And they're not saying, oh, I'm a Callaway driver and I won this. But who might be doing that is a club Instagram page who says what they play. But you might as well sponsor that Instagram page instead, because they have all the control of who sees that, And then also on the other side for the players, like I think I talked about it a little bit earlier, but if the purse is getting bigger and bigger and bigger like it is now with this competition between LIV and PGA, I'm not going to be risking not playing the clubs I want because I have to play all the same clubs for one bag. You talked about Tom Kim's bag being diverse. Like there's a reason why he uses Callaway irons and Vokey wedges. Those work for him. If he gets in a Sunday, he wants that Vokey wedge in his bag. He doesn't want a Jaws wedge in his bag. But if he was locked into Callaway, he would 100% have to have a Jaws wedge.
Yeah.
So, like, it's great for both sides right now. The companies get what they need in terms of viewership and marketing, and the guys, it frees them up a little bit to just use some clubs here and there and really hit hard on these apparel deals.
I think one thing, though, that does kind of stand out is that it's right here. So, for example, I mean, it isn't a perfect example to a degree, but back, I think it was like a year and a half ago when Brooks Koepka signed to Strixon, he also opted to use Cleveland wedges. Now, Cleveland actually did wind up getting bought. Actually, Schlesinger, who technically owns Strixon, also bought Cleveland. So, in that case, like, yeah, it kind of works out. But even the guys who, like, there are some players who will always constantly go through like club changes. Like Justin Thomas this week switched out from the brand new Scotty to the one that he putted with in like 10th grade. Like those things also come into play. And I feel like if guys want to move to the trusty putter that they've always had, like even for me, right? I've got a Spider, but my old putter, which is my grandpa's from the 1980s, is like the very first edition Callaway like White Hot. If I was a pro golfer, why would I handicap myself to have to utilize certain clubs? Although I'm sure there are possibilities of club deals where you can be like, look, I will use your driver, your irons, your putter, but I like need these wedges because they're the best that I have. Mm-hmm. Like as of late, I know a lot of guys have been switching over to like Mizuno wedges because they're simply that good. I know obviously there are certain brands that they would never allow it to happen. Like you can't really be sporting TaylorMade and then be like, yo, but like I need Vogies. Like no, that would never fly.
Never.
But if you go from let's say I'm going to rock all Titleist, but I need like a Mizuno or I need like Ben Hogan or Tommy Armour, whatever the hell you want to use. I feel like those could possibly make their way. I also do think like the disparity between the apparel, the club, and the ball are all wildly different. Like I think like Tiger uses a Bridgestone ball, rocks Nike, and then plays TaylorMade. Could wear a TaylorMade hat? No, he's going to sport the classic Nike because it's been around forever. Granted, also he was like Brooks Koepka in the field where everyone had Nike clubs at that point. So once they kind of went defunct, it was always a matter of, all right, where do I go now? But even going back to the idea of like obsoleteness, right? Let's say you're a casual golfer, and I'm just kind of thinking like out loud here. You look at the top 15 golfers in the world, and I could probably bring Kyle on to as someone who doesn't totally know golf to discuss this. But like, as the casual golfer, do you know what clubs Rory McIlroy plays? Because he doesn't show it on his gear. Do you know what? I can't even tell you honestly what Scotty Scheffler plays. I'm going to assume Titleist. I think I could very well be wrong. Patrick Kenley, obviously out there. John Rahm, he wears it on his head. That makes sense. Schauffele wears it on his head. That's true too. Zalatoris, Thomas, like Matt Fitzpatrick, I would not be able to tell you whatsoever what he plays.
No idea.
The only thing that I know he wears is joggers and Skechers.
And he's a U.S. Open winner.
Yeah, so
it's crazy.
So like that idea, like Victor Hovland. Granted, we all know he uses ping, but outside of me seeing it on his hat, I would never guess ever. Yeah. So like it's stuff like that. Like Tony Finau, you wouldn't know. Sam Burns, you wouldn't know. Tom Kim, obviously, you still have no idea, even if you did have a brand. Spieth, you can't tell. Homa, you can because of Titleist. It's stuff like that. So just kind of regurgitating exactly what I was saying on that end. Changing gears, though, I have to discuss your law background now while I have you here and while I'm going to have you here for the foreseeable future. Let's talk LIVGolf. I saw on Instagram, I think over the weekend, that apparently Rory McIlroy has been subpoenaed to get deposed by LIVGolf. You've done research. Apparently, the LIV lawyer is a psychopath. Break down this entire thing for the naive casual golf fan that I am, who knows nothing about what's going on in these lawsuits. And where do we kind of stand now with the whole Rory being deposed thing? What does that mean?
Yeah. So before I jump into any law things, just for the bar and for my future job, I'm not a lawyer yet. I am just talking about the law, and I'm still in law school. So
I love how all of you guys say the same thing. I asked one of my best friends who's in his third year of law school. I go, hey, could you like tell me about X, Y, and Z? He goes, oh yeah, X, Y, and Z. But just so you know, I'm not a lawyer.
Yeah, and I'm not giving any legal advice right now. I'm just saying what I would do as a lay person who just happens to read law textbooks every day
for a living.
So basically what we got here is an antitrust lawsuit. Essentially, LIV is saying that the PGA has a monopoly over golf, and by banning their guys from playing on the PGA Tour, their guys being the LIV guys, they are monopolizing golf. And in big law school terms, these antitrust merits, as they say, the judges should look at this case very narrowly and just decide, is there freedom of contract? Is there freedom to do what they need to do? And is the PGA making it impossible to play golf anywhere else? And what it's essentially going to come down to is they're both going to bring in their expert witnesses. They're both going to pay people $1 gazillion to come in and give their opinions. And you just got to decide, is there a market outside of the PGA Tour? Because if there's not, then they have monopoly. But if there is a market, then they don't have monopoly, which is the side I'm on. I don't think the PGA Tour at all is monopolizing golf. And the big thing that I think the PGA Tour we need to argue is they don't even have control of the top 4 tournaments in golf. You know, like other than the PGA Championship, they don't control the Masters. We saw that now. The Masters is doing literally whatever they want, just like they always will. They don't control the Open. They don't control the US Open. So how can they monopolize a sport if they don't control the Super Bowl of that sport, you know? And I think that's something that they're going to have to argue. And then also that these LIV guys and these guys that left knew the contract they were signing when they signed this contract with the PGA. They knew if they left and played on this tour, they wouldn't be able to play. That's freedom of contract. That's freedom of the ability to run your company the way you want to run your company. These guys, they don't work for the PGA. They're independent contractors. They're hired out as independent contractors who come in and they play to win this money. And so the PGA has rules. And one of those rules is if you go play for LIV, you're not allowed to play on the PGA Tour. So go make your money on LIV. Go make your Saudi-backed whatever money we want to talk about. And if I'm not letting it off enough, I am not a Live Tour fan at all, which honestly, like, I should be, but the traditionalist in me just won't let me be. Like, I think it's kind of cool that they go and do this stuff, and it's just different. But I'm never going to say that again. I'm not a Live guy. I can't stand Live. I can't stand Bryson DeChambeau. I can't stand Cam Smith. I can't stand all those guys. And so we might disagree on that, but the traditionalist in me is just PGA. They are the true and steady. And I just don't think there's any case here. And just, again, touching on that attorney that is bringing these cases, his name is Larry Claymore, I'm pretty sure is how you say his last name. And he is just a shark in the legal world. There's this quote about him suing his mother. I don't know if that's true at all, but he is bound to sue anyone, and he's just this angry guy. He actually represented Patrick Reed in his in that case of slander against like Brandley Chambly and the PGA.
Oh, of course. All right, yeah. So you're gonna ask that.
That's been missed 9 times over. They keep rebringing it. Patrick Reed doesn't like when people have bad opinions about him. And I wrote a blog the other day where I said, if you're going to depose our king Tiger Woods, then US Golf Facts, or what's that stupid account that his wife tweets from? It's like Golf Facts or something. I said they have to depose too, and we have to reveal who that is. So I'm obviously team PGA here, but yeah, that's pretty much it. It comes down to, is there a market outside of the PGA? For sure.
Hold on. So who's this Live lawyer again? What's his name?
Larry Claymore, Klaymar.
I gotta find
Clayman. Sorry, Klayman.
All right, Larry Clayman, American attorney, right-wing activist, former Justice Department prosecutor. Love that. I'm now curious about everything about him. Oh, here we go. All right, filed upwards of 27 lawsuits against the Clinton administration, which led him to be called Clinton nemesis. Filed a number of lawsuits against political figures and government agencies. His goal in initiating the lawsuit is often to obtain information through a discovery process rather than to actually win the lawsuit. I love this. Wow.
Yeah, he's just a shark, man. He's a shark, and he's out for some blood right now, and that Saudi-backed money is making him real thirsty. For sure. And I'm sure.
I mean, he's probably making at least $500 million. Probably.
Oh, he's getting a bag and a half for this. He wants this to go on for as long as possible. And these antitrust cases, even outside of the PGA, are never short because there's just so much you have to peel through. He'll be making money hand over fist from the Saudis for the next 5, 6, 7 years for sure.
In 1990, Clayman deposed several White House officials, and at the time, George Stephanopoulos about a traffic ticket.
Dude, he's wild. He's wild. I said he sued his own mother. They said he sued his own mother. So I mean, if he's doing that, there's nothing that's stopping him for sure.
He sued Obama. He sued the Bidens. He sued basically every Democrat to enter office in the last 20 years. He's filed some sort of thing. Oh, yes. Oh, wait. It says right here in 2001, he filed a lawsuit against his own mother. What the hell is this?
I knew it. The guy is wild.
Oh, my God. Sued his mother for $50,000 for the reimbursement for medical care provided to his maternal grandmother. Defended his actions in an interview with ABC News and said that it was essentially a case against my stepfather and that he named his mother because legally she was next of kin.
That's crazy, man. Yeah, He is definitely a character, and there's just he is Liv's guy for sure.
So where does Rory McIlroy though play into this? Being that they're trying are they trying to depose him and Tiger to try and just pry information?
Yeah, they know Rory and Tiger are the kings of the PGA Tour right now. Rory and Tiger are in those special rooms to where they're having real conversation to where the public ain't hearing about it. And if they get Rory and Tiger on a stand and start asking them questions, they kind of have to talk at least a little bit.
Yeah.
And I mean, the PGA Tour right now, if Tiger wants it done, it's going to happen. We saw that last year. We saw that the previous year. Tiger has a pretty strong fingerprint on the tour. So these live attorneys and these live guys know that he has a lot of facts that could help their case if those facts exist. We don't know if those facts exist. But if they do exist, Rory and Tiger are going to know about them.
To try and, I mean, now I studied management and business in college, and one of the things we always talked about, especially for me as a sports guy, was unionizing. And I don't know if it's worthwhile for the PGA Tour at this point to try and avoid anything just to unionize their own staff and try and bring on these current ICs and, of course, obviously everyone who's playing and try and create a golf union. But if they do create a union, would that possibly help their case and say, hey, we're trying to actually like bring legality to this and actually make like binding contracts for everybody and they can sign with whatever? Or does it kind of seems unfeasible being that there's no like teams you can join?
Yeah, I just don't see it being possible as well, because they're not going to pay out contracts to these guys to where they're just making money to show up. But so and they are kind of actually doing that a little bit now that I say that, but they're not going to pay. It's not like a basketball contract to where you're getting this guaranteed money just to be here, because that's not how golf works. That's not how golf payouts work. And so I don't see that being feasible at all. And I don't even know if that would really protect against what Liv is saying, because I think that would actually make it more exclusive, just on my first thought. Yeah. And it would really exclude those guys. And that's what a monopoly comes down to, the right to exclude and forcing people out or forcing people to stay in because you're the only people that can do it. Like, I'm trying to think of a really easy, simple example. So like going back way back in time, like Teddy Roosevelt, like the railroads or the steel, like they were the only people that could do that. But that's not happening here. Liv is running their own tour, and there's money in there, and they're making more money than these guys in the PGA. So there's no monopoly being done by the PGA, in my opinion.
It also very clearly appeared that once Liv was founded, that there was no longer any monopolization at all, unless they're trying to. And this could be something that I don't even know about. Are you able to predate a lawsuit to be like, oh, well, prior to us starting, they were doing this illegally? Is that like a possibility?
I'm sure they could bring it into the lawsuit, but they're going to ruin their own lawsuit because they broke up the monopoly on their own. They came in and busted the monopoly open. Craig Norman came in and busted up the monopoly. So he's the savior of golf. So, I mean, that's what we're seeing here.
Greg Norman, the elite trust buster. It's like the
exactly.
It's basically Teddy Roosevelt 2.0.
Exactly.
Oh my goodness.
That's
all
a
right.
meme.
Well, you know what?
That's a meme right there. Greg Norman's face on Teddy Roosevelt riding a horse.
Oh my God. That's a shirt idea.
Yeah, that is. We need that.
Ladies and gents, we have our first shirt idea from Jake. All right. Transitioning over, the Sony Open this week, tees off. It's like basketball season. Tees off on Thursday. As of right now, we got a pretty good picture currently of what the field's going to look like. Hideki Matsuyama will be in the field this week, trying to defend his title. Won last year in the second week of the season over Russell Henley in the playoff. You remember that one? Hit a ball into the sun that looked like it was like 300,000 feet away and wound up like 2 feet from the hole. And Russell Henley basically conceded, found the bunker, and laid up from there, made his par, and I think Matsuyama eagled that one to win.
Eagle
to win the event, something like ridiculous. But short little preview if you want to check out the actual full breakdown. I did this all last year throughout the entire season. You can go find our episode last year on the Sony Open. I break down everything you need to know. Really kind of a quick like little breeze over. And Jake, anything you want to really add here before we get into the bulk of our breakdown here? Par 71, pretty standard golf course. As we've made reference to prior to the show, and I'll make reference to it now, and we'll talk about it on the other side here. It's a golf course that you don't have to be the longest player in the world. You got to be a straight player. The rough's pretty penalizing. There's bunkers everywhere. And of course, it's Hawaii, so it's pretty out. It's pretty out there, but the conditions might not necessarily be the most enticing. Something to look out for is that it's a Kevin Kisner course, which means that there are a handful of players that we'll be looking at this week that will really be able to make a splash on this course. Jake, is there anything you want to really add to kind of give us just an overall breakdown? Nothing too deep into this one about the Sony Open this week.
For those watching video, you see me smiling here, and it's because my big hit is that it's a Kevin Kisner course. Like, this is just like the Wyndham Championship, that course where he came out and played electric. And the short course, 7,044 yards. You just got to keep the ball in play. Like you said, the rough is penalizing. But yeah, it's a Kevin Kisner course. Guys like Kevin Kisner are going to play well here. And our guy, Tom Kim, is going to play well here. I'm saying that now.
You're going to hear a lot of Tom Kim in the next about 25 minutes. So don't go anywhere. On the other side here, we're going to give you the absolute best bets of the week. We're going to talk props, and we're going to talk our picks on Beer Money. Don't go anywhere, folks. To get in the whole podcast, Jake and Steve right here. Welcome back. It's the Get in the Hole podcast. Steve and Jake here for time to break down everything you need to know in the betting world, the circuits, and basically every single market you can think of. We're probably going to hit on it at some point today. It is time to start off with some prop bets for courtesy of our friends over at Pickup. Pickup, play the headline, sign up with your phone number right now at Play Pickup. Now, Jake, I don't know if you know this, but the beauty of Pickup is this. It's a betting market created by fans for fans. There's no money involved unless you really want to wager. You can, but you're able to bet based on the percentage of people that are agreeing with you. Let's say I want to throw out: is there going to be a playoff this week? Yes or no? I bet no. 73% of voters vote no. Points get broken up from that 73%, get put into your account, and you can then redeem that for other gift cards to betting markets. I believe that they're partnered with BetMGM, FanDuel, DraftKings, or you can redeem it for some prizes. The CrossNet volleyball net that's become really popular is there. Bat mugs, and I know you're a baseball guy. Those are also available, and then a bunch of other fun prizes. So go play at Play Pickup right now. We're going to kind of shake things up a little bit. We usually do. I usually give out 3 or 4 prop bets, and then we kind of debate them. However, as two gentlemen who are well immersed in the golf game, we kind of have our own prop bets we're going to be putting out, and of course, you can bet these online at Play Pickup as well. So, Jake, I'll start with you. Give me a couple of prop bets you're looking at this week. Could, again, literally be anything because, after all, we are making these up on the fly on our own. Could be a matchup play. Could be a playoff play. I did see a bet on one sports book that's green. Is there going to be an albatross this week? It's like plus 3,000.
Wow.
Don't know if that'll ever happen. But there are some things out there. However, Pickup is going to have everything you need. So what do you got this week?
Yeah, so my first one is a little bit of a wild one, but I'll explain it after I say it. Tom Hoge, over under 4.5 strokes on hole 1.
Are you saying first round or
no, first hole. First hole. Just first hole of the night, first hole of the day, hole 1. And the reasoning behind that is our guy, Tom Hoge, TCU guy, has flown now to the national championship from Hawaii, is at the national championship. I'm sure is getting plastered at the national championship. And I'm guessing he could either, 1, turn into Superman from the superpowers, whatever he gets from that hangover that he has for 2 days flying back to Hawaii, or he's going to be absolutely unbearable to watch on a golf course after he burns it down at the national championship, especially if the Horned Frogs come out on top. I think you hammer that even more, but I'm still Tom Hoge over 4.5 strokes on hole 1. I'm smashing the over.
The one thing I hate in the state of New York is that you cannot bet prop bets of any kind for college sporting events. Stetson Bennett just had a 21-yard touchdown on the first drive of the game, 11 minutes down. Georgia's already 7-0. I actually placed a 5-leg parlay. I'm not going to share the details of this parlay because I'm a firm believer of if I tell you, I lose.
Oh, yeah.
However, this Georgia first touchdown does, in fact, help me out a ton. My first bet is going to actually be pretty simple, pretty straight up. In the history of the Sony Open, there have been 6 playoffs. The event's been played only 8 times. Where am I going? Wow. We're going to play out this week. It's like plus 300 on most sportsbooks. I think you can get it as good as like plus 400. So I am 1,000% going for a playoff this week. Again, we saw it last year. Matsuyama and Henley played the 18th hole, I believe twice. I think it was, or I don't know, might have been the first hole. I could be very wrong. But there have been plenty of playoffs here in the past, so that'll be my first one. What else you got?
Yeah, I got Tom Kim and a Jordan Spieth matchup. As we've said, Tom Kim is our absolute guy, but that flap shot by Spieth on day 1 was just unreal, and I am on that Spieth train hard right now. I do have to say that I am going with Tom Kim over Jordan Spieth because I just can't bet against our guy, as we said earlier, but I think that's going to be a really good matchup to watch out for.
I have it's kind of a 2-in-1 here, and it's pretty simple. I'm going to go Taylor Montgomery over Tom Hoge this week. Currently is higher on the odds board, but Montgomery a rookie this year. I think he was fantastic in the fall swing.
Mhm.
And despite Hoagie having a top 3 this week, while yes, Montgomery is higher on the odds board by about 3 to 1, I'm still all in on Montgomery being an absolute stud this year. I currently have him as my pick to win Rookie of the Year. I have a future down already sitting and festering and waiting to be won. So I'm going to take Montgomery there, and then also I want to take Corey Connors. It's a really, really simple bet and kind of a dumb one. You can bet this on the sports books as well if you are able to actually bet those props. But Corey Connors, top Canadian. The guy can't putt for shit, but for some reason he manages to like ball strike his way to top 20s all the time. So it's like I think I saw it. The best odds was like 15 to 9, which like for reference is like plus 270. And like the next best guy is Mackenzie Hughes. Hughes is way down. I was like plus 6,000 to win. I believe Connors is like plus 2,500. So it's a pretty simple bet. Not a lot of money, but again, it's a little bit of pizza and beer money if you want to throw it down.
Oh yeah. And I got one more for you. I got the Sony Open winner over under 21.5 under par. So the winner here is always around that. These Hawaii courses, these guys just blow up these scoreboards. It's unreal. Last year, Hideki at 23 under, Kevin Na at 21 under in 2021. And then in 2020, Cam Smith was actually 11 under, but it was the windiest weekend ever. And so that becomes a pretty big problem. But I would say that we definitely see that people are getting a little bit higher than 21.5 under par.
Yeah, no, that's actually a really good look. I'm a big fan of that. I'm trying to think of one more if I can like throw one out. And honestly, if I was going to do anything, it'd probably just be I could very well just throw it in our bets. However, I have a very eclectic beer money board this week, and so I'm going to save it. Actually, no, you know what? No, I'll throw it out. Billy Horschel plays this golf course really, really, really well. And I expect at some point this week he will in fact drain 6 birdies. So I'm going to take Billy Horschel over under at some point this week, minus 6.5, not minus 6.5 birdies in a round this week. I think that's almost a hammer here. The greens aren't as undulated as a Kapalua. They're a little more understandable because this is like the true resort golf course that won't cost you $400 to go play. So it's one of those things where I might as well go take the pedestrian golf number where you're practically playing at a Muni. So I'm going to roll with Horschel there on that one. Let's move on over. Beer money time, brought to you by our friends over at Kenwood Beer, Philadelphia's #1 light lager. Jake, did you know that if at some point you and I manage to find ourselves at the Wells Fargo Center, you can now drink Kenwood beer at a Sixers game, at a Philadelphia Wings game, at a Flyers game? You can now have Kenwood beer. Go online, kenwoodbeer.com. Any purchase you make, 10% off your order. Code USP. Also use that Kenny Tracker to find beer in your location. Jake, we're going to start off with you. Top 20, your first ever beer money. Don't let us down.
Can't let you down. And you just hammered him a little bit. Billy Horschel, top 20 for sure, I think is an easy pick. Guy keeps it in play. These short, tight courses, these fairways are tight, but our guy, Billy, definitely keeps it in there. And at comparable courses like Wyndham, like we talked about, those Kevin Kisner style courses, Billy Horschel has just been on fire, and I think he's a lock in that top 20 spot.
I have again, like I said, a eclectic board, and I want you to tell me if at some point you start to guess the trend here that I'm going with. Top 20, Kurt Kitayama at plus 240. You can get him at as good as about 330 for a top 20. Again, someone who doesn't hit the ball incredibly far, but he's accurate off the tee. There's something about guys like Kurt Kitayama playing in Hawaii that just simply works, as well as everyone else that I'm picking this week. Simply just plays well in Hawaii. So I think it's a pretty safe play here. Hits it straight, hits it accurate, and has traditionally been a top 25 player in the world at approach to the green, which is something that's very underrated, considering it's probably the most important stat every single week on tour. Top 10 pick, what do you got?
For me, this is more of a feeling pick, so I don't have a ton of great stat lines to back it up, but I'm going Cam Davis, T10. And I say that because he does pound the ball. He does get kind of long sometimes, but he keeps the ball in play. And that's what we're looking for this weekend. This rough is going to punish you. And if you keep the ball in play. It gives you a really good chance for birdies, a really good chance for eagles. You have to at least birdie these par fives. If you don't birdie the par fives, you have absolutely no shot to be in the top 10. And you really should be eagling a lot of them, you know, and you don't say that often, but these courses are short. These courses are very, very gettable. And I think Cam Davis gets a whole lot of birdies this week. So I have him T10.
My top 10 pick is the defending champion, Hideki Matsuyama. You can get him as good as 210, which is a ridiculous number for a champion. He's, I think, like 4th or 5th on the odds board, and it's largely because this year, at least in the fall swing, didn't necessarily play his best golf. Didn't finish any better than 21st. He finished 25th at the 40 net, 40th at the Zozo after winning the year prior, 34th at the CJ Cup. He withdrew from the Houston Open after 3 rounds. At 4 over, and then at this past week, Century T21. So hasn't been the best golf in the world, but how could you not get a good number like that on a past champion? It seems like a ridiculous slate there. So plus 210 is where I have him. He's like usually hovering around like the 170s or 180s. You probably are going to have to find him at like an offshore. But I got in a little early and I took him at 210. So that's who I got. Top 5. Who are you playing?
Before I make my top 5 pick, I'm starting to see your theme as, let's just say, fundamental, slow backswinging golfers, for sure, is I think where you're going.
Yes, but there's also a much simpler characteristic to describe all these guys.
So my top 5 pick is, and I might be under a spell, that flop shot might have just put me into a little bit of a Jordan Spieth coma, but I got Jordan Spieth T5. The guy is on the come up, on the comeback, and I got Jordan Spieth top 5.
There's something fascinating to me about taking guys hot. Like, golf is so hard to bet on because, like, the guy who wins could be like 40th on the odds board. Like there was one bet. There was one week where like a Nirban Lahiri was like the last person on the odds board, and he finished like T2. So like you never really know what's gonna happen. But I tend, like, at this point to get whoever's the best player on the odds board, who Vegas already knows is going to play well. If I can get a good number for them at a top 10 or lower, I'm going to take it. So number 2 on the odds board is Sungjae Im. I hope at this point you know exactly where I'm rolling here. He's plus 350 for a top 5, and it just makes sense. Was projected to be a top 5 pick last week at Kapalua. Fell off on the last day. Was as high as T3 out of the 54 holes. So why not get a bounce back at a get right week here? And he's been pretty good this fall swing. And there's something great about Sungjae Im's game where 2 years ago he led the PGA Tour in bogeys and birdies. Now he's finally starting to chip down at that bogey number, and it's really because of his approach game and his short game. It's been phenomenal, and I don't think it's going to stop now. So Sungjae Im is my guy. Our gimme pick of the week, our best bet. It could be literally any kind of bet you want to make, prop bet or top 10, 20, whatever it is that you want to play. Your absolute best bet, that's a guaranteed hit. What is it?
I am smashing Corey Connors T20. The guy has finished top 25 in all events since October through the end of the year, and he's just obviously going to be in the mix. He's been top 25 in strokes gained of anyone in the field. And even though he can't putt, he just gets the ball on the green. He's going to make it in. He's not 3-putting everything. If he gets it there quicker than everyone, he's going to drop the ball in the cup eventually. So I think Corey Connors T20 is an absolute hammer for this weekend.
This is a great bet because of the fact that I'm actually getting better odds at a worse placement than I am for him to make the cut. Kita Nakajima, the former world #1 amateur, comes into this week playing on the Asian circuit with 7 straight top 20s. I'm going to take him even further back, and at plus 185, top 40.
Wow.
He has better odds for a top 40 than he does to make the cut, which is obvious. But considering a full field event where top 70 makes it, top 40 is a pretty damn good number here, and plus 185 I think is a home run. So that's where I'm going with my pick of the week. Winner, winner, chicken dinner, the casual and classic quote. Where are we getting the money to go out for a nice steak dinner? Forget the beer, but I want a steak. Who's going to win it for us?
So I think we might actually have the same pick, but my winner this week is Tom Kim. This guy, he's just a baller. You know, he's a baller. He hasn't found a golf course he hasn't liked. What I said earlier, and I could literally care less. This is his first time playing the course. He's going to come out. I'm sure his caddy is already out there walking around, rolling balls, making sure things are rolling the way Tom Kim wants him to, and he's going to come out hot. He's going to come out. He's going to stripe it, going to play just like he plays those small Kevin Kisner type courses, and I just think he really excels this weekend.
So Tom Kim, to give you an idea of where Tom Kim and Kevin Kisner rank amongst each other, for all the courses that Kevin Kisner's plays top 5, Tom Kim's played better. Granted, that's been like 3 courses, but like whatever. Tom Kim is better in approach play ever since his time on the Asian circuit. So I'm going to use the last 3 years as an example here. Now this is also 17-year-old Tom Kim to 20-year-old Tom Kim versus 32-year-old Kevin Kisner to 35 at his prime. Tom Kim's better than him in every stat. Additionally, it took Kevin Kisner longer to get to this many wins in his young career than Tom Kim was. And I'm joining you on my quest for Tom Kim to get to a win. He's number 1 on the odds board at plus 1,200 right now. So he's 12-1. At the beginning, he was edged slightly by Jordan Spieth, but now he's kind of come out as the clear winner. He has 5 top 25s in 5 weeks this year. Won the Shriners, finished 11th at the CJ, 10th at the Hero, which granted 20-man field, whatever. Was one of 5 players to go all under 70 the entire week at Kapalua. Finished T5, and it's a no-brainer. And if you couldn't tell by now, every pick that I had was an Asian player. Asians love Hawaii. I don't know what it is. It's like a business trip. They go there and they are all in on playing in Hawaii. So I'm hoping my entire Asian board doesn't fail me. Which also explains why I didn't take any player for top Asian this week. Is really I'm in on all of them. But I mean, if we're gonna go top Asian, you might as well go Tom Kim there and Tom Kim top Korean. So there you go. Even though it's probably terrible odds because him and him are way too high on the board. Final thoughts this week, Jake. After your first career show in the underground, what do you think?
It's been great. I'm just so pumped to be here. I enjoyed every second of this. I just love talking golf, love talking with you. And my big thing is either hammer Tom Hoagie or completely fade him, because either TCU is going to bring him some great juju or he's going to be so hungover he can't hit a golf ball. So that's my final thought for you.
I want to get one final look here at the scoreboard before I go turn off and go watch the game. 10-0 Georgia, but TCU is currently marching down the field. They're at the 4-yard line. Is Kendry Miller playing tonight? Because if he's not, this is going to be a rout. He's not playing. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy.
Not good.
If you're watching this, it's too late. But if I could play Max Duggan touchdown, any touchdown, perfect time for this. Because if it isn't a Kendry Miller run, it's going to be him up the middle. My final thought, real quick. I just got this in the mail, and it looks great on Amazon. 2-for-1 on shoehorns.
Oh, let's go.
Classic invention, classy invention as well. And I'm very excited to utilize this. My girlfriend opened the box and was like, what the hell is this? Was like, what's wrong with you? You're buying a shoehorn? I was like, yeah, it's classy. Keeps the creasing out of my boots.
Oh, yeah.
By the way, hold on. So you went to this is a total sidebar before we go here. You went to Wofford.
Mm-hmm.
Did you wear cowboy boots down there?
I do. I'm a big cowboy boots guy. I hate to say it. And I'm from New York, upstate New York originally. So I've been very Southernized. And my fiance now has very much Southernized me, Southern girl. So I have been completely Southern washed, sadly.
Whoa, hold on. Don't say that. I almost went to the rodeo yesterday at MSG.
Oh, shoot.
Unfortunately, no one wanted to go with me except for my sister. And,
I'd go with you. I'd go, no doubt.
You know what? The next time the PBR is in town, which also, by the way, I found out was $5 PBRs. They bought the place out and only sold PBR for the evening. I was like, oh my goodness, I'm all in. Anyways, that's going to do it all here. Stephen McAvoy, Jake Dippold here. His first show at the seat. He'll be joining us again next week for, I don't even know what event it is. At this point, it's like the 18th week in a row that I don't know what the next event is, but I will promise to do my research and I'll figure it out for next week. With that being said, Jake Dippold, we're calling him Dip. I'm Stephen McAvoy. Thank you folks for joining in here. Thanks for listening to Get in the Hole, the official golf podcast of Underground Sports Philadelphia. Catch us every week wherever you get your favorite podcasts, and be sure to like and subscribe on Apple, Spotify, and YouTube. You can follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Get in the Hole Pod, and follow Underground Sports Philadelphia at Underground PHI. We'll see you next time. And remember, get in the hole!